on that, after a while, after we lost, after Mayhem closed their doors and we couldn't find a label, and as time went on, just feeling, a little defeated, we put out another album on our own, and but after time, I just felt like it was time to move on from music, and then me and my wife moved down here to Atlanta, and like I said earlier, she encouraged me to get back into music because she knows that's what I do, and put together MuckRaker. The original band was formed in 2010. Had a different drummer and a different guitar player. They both left for their own various reasons, and now we have a pretty solid lineup with two different members. And we put out Big Black Bus,
yeah.
Last year, in May of 2012. It's the our first full length, and it came out damn good, we think. And in fact, the guy who mastered that, a guy locally here, he was the guy who originally recorded songs for Leonard Skinner, Sweet Home Alabama, and Freebird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's from the area, and that's what he does. That's all he does now is mastering. But right now we're recording, or not recording yet, but we're writing material for our next album. I think we have about 7 songs total, and want to do a couple more, maybe a 9-song full length. I don't do EPs anymore. I don't recommend anybody else do them either. So that's what's going on currently.
No, fair enough. No, that's right. A lot of bands are putting out EPs. Now, for your sophomore album here, we'll call it your sophomore album for MuckRaker, you say you've had about 7 songs or so pretty much ready to go. Now, are you guys changing it up in any way? Like, just meaning, like, no, still playing metal, but going in a little bit of a different direction?
Yes and no, I guess. The last album had a lot more tracks on it. We had 13 tracks. Some of them were pretty short, more like, I guess I would want to say a little bit more jovial. We had a song, it's called My Drinking Song on there. And we had an instrumental on there. But these ones are going to be pretty much full-faced, full-on in-your-face groove, metal, whatever you want to call it. So I would say there's not too much of a different direction, other than the songwriting has grown and matured. I think that there's a lot more hooks on this upcoming one than there were on the last one. Although the last one we've definitely got some fan favorites like Kingmaker, the Iron Heel, which you just played,
Hayward Barkett,
Con Man, and so forth. But I think that this next one is going to be. I think that. So far it's hard for me to find favorites personally.
Well, it's just one of those things because music is a constant grow. It's a constant grow because there's even though we've been playing guitar for 20, 25 years. You're still learning more because there's so much more to go. So not having a favorite route to hop is not necessarily a bad thing. You're still kind of perfecting your sound a little bit more as how you guys want to hear it and how you guys want to put it out.
Yeah, I've always described people that music is mathematical. Mathematics never end. It just never ends. So the same is true with music. never ends. There's always a new formula that you can concoct. You know, so you know, and most days I just personally have stuff coming out of me anymore, and I just want to. I try to be as creative as possible, yet make it so it's easy for the listener to get into it, you know, and for us to get into it as a band.
Well, I know, and that's an interesting way to put it mathematically, because that's the first time I've heard that, and it's a very interesting way to put it because you're absolutely right. Now, we're going to touch on some of the new songs just for one moment here more. Now, creatively, obviously, you say you guys are still growing, but did you have, are you still kind of keeping along the same thing as politically driven, or are you going to stray off that a little bit, or what do you have in mind, or what have you put down so far? We'll put it that way.
I'd say, well, no, actually, it's probably grown, but you know, I also want to write songs that, you know, because there's going to be people who don't agree with your message.
Very true.
So, you know, but I still want them to dig the music, you know. So I try not to be overt with things, with the lyrics that I write and the topics. So I try to be a little ambiguous, you know, and certain people, depending on their point of view, can, you know, can see things, can interpret in their own way, maybe. But yeah, it's definitely, it's political, it's historical, because I really love history. And once in a while, just a tad bit of humor thrown in, you know.
Well, and that always makes it fun. And the thing is, too, is lyrically, you're right. Sometimes the people may not agree with the message, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, they still do like the tune. And it's one of those things, you know, you can't please everybody. I mean, I know it's an old cliche, but at the same time, too, is, you know, if people dig the music, you know, the lyrics will mean a lot, but they won't mean everything, because there are songs, a few songs that I like. No, the lyrics aren't the best, but the music is just killer, and like, you know, it's like you can kind of dismiss that part of it, even though I try to invest in all aspects of the song. You can't always, and that's something that's going to happen from time to time. But as long as you know, you guys are happy with it and pushing it out, that's one of the most important things. Obviously, you want to gain a huge fan base, and that's completely understandable, and I totally agree with that. But at the same time, too, is like, you know, you're not always going to be able to please all the masses, but you'll be able to please those enough that they're going to say, you know, this is cool. And little by little, you know, you've moved around, and you've got a more and more fans who say, you know what, listen to this. Now this is a killer riff, or listen to this like drum solo. Like, I'm like really digging this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I pretty much just, whatever I'm doing, whatever strikes my personal interest, and I think other people, well, the first people I want to please is my other band members if I'm writing something, and come to them with it, you know, and luckily I have, like, the most open band members on earth, you know, there's songs I've come to, you know, and Mulligan, our guitar player, has been like, he's told me a month later, you know, when you brought that to practice, I hate it, but I wanted to give it a chance, you know, and now I love it, you know, or that kind of thing. So, fortunately, we've got a good unit that, and, you know, everybody contributes where they can, but, I don't know, it's all about a feel, and it's all about how dynamic can we make this song, and I feel like I'm starting to be like one of those professional sports guys who's interviewed on TV. It's a bunch of random generalized statements, but, you know, I mean, it's true. It's true in the real world, so. No,
very true. You're absolutely right, but I mean, at least on the sports commentator part, at least I'm not asking, like a lot of them do, ask the obvious, like, so you guys are making music, how'd you do it, you know? So.
Yeah, no, nothing at you. I'm just thinking about what I was just saying. I was like, wow, I'm starting to sound like, you know, whatever.
No, it's a good way to put it. But I'm a lot more in depth, and I want to find out the kind of the quote unquote nitty gritty to, you know, because I want people and as well as myself to learn about the band, and that way it helps out a lot more to get into the music, because the more you know about the band, the more people will start to appreciate more, kind of like such as where he came from, such as yourself coming from Boilers, like, well, no, he started here, and that went for a number of years, but now look at this new band. This new band's working a lot better, and people like to know that stuff. And even though some of it's online, there's some stuff that's not, and that's the stuff they kind of like to dive into more, because that's what people want to hear, and they want to hear you talk about your band, and as do I. So moving on from that, obviously you've played numerous shows, so we're going to touch on that very slightly, because I'm sure you've got tons of stories. But if you had to pick, let's say, I guess one of your favorite shows you played, if you're able to think of it, because I know you must have like a plethora of them, what would be the one that really stuck out, whether it was with Boiler or with MuckRaker?
I'd say with I can list two of these. One was with Boiler. Well, a lot of our shows, especially in our hometown up in Ithaca, New York, just the energy and the passion of the fans. Because we had a really loyal fan base there. It's a small town, but people would come from other towns to come out and see us, and we packed the place, and some of the most intense mosh pits I've ever seen were at Boiler shows. And one of probably my most memorable was when we did our farewell show. It was pretty emotional. I'd been with Boiler for 10 years plus. And, the last song we played was a song that never ended up being recorded, but it was called Adios. And it was pretty intense, and I'll never forget it. I actually had a tear or two on stage. As in terms of MuckRaker, we played a show not too long ago, back in August, at the Masquerade. A band called Dead Rights. They were headlining. It was their CD release, and Prime Mover and a couple other bands were playing. Bone Church, another band from here, great band. And there was just a ton of people, and everybody was having a great time. We're still struggling here in Atlanta. People don't go out quite as much anymore, and they're very loyal to who they like. But that particular show for us was really, really great. We had a really great time. Great folks, and luckily I didn't have to drive home. Yeah. Back to Boiler for a second. We opened up for a lot of bands. Opened up for Dio once. Opened up for Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Oh, no way! How classic was that?
We did a tour with Crowbar. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but great, really heavy band. Toured with them for a couple weeks. Opened up for Blue Oyster Cult.
Wow.
Biohazard, Bad Religion. We opened up for a lot of people. Clutch. We opened up for Clutch 3 times. Got to meet Neil Fallon from Clutch. It was a great time.
Holy crap, Will! You
a lot of bands would kill for it. I'd kill to do it again, but it is what it is. It's the music industry is not easy.
Not forgiving either. So.
Not doing at all.
Man, that's incredible. I mean, I couldn't even imagine opening up for some of those bands. I mean, it must have been like nerve-wracking, but it's extremely exciting at the same time, because having that under your belt, saying, some of these bands may not be around anymore, but I opened up for these guys. We opened up for these guys, and like it's just nice to have that under your belt. And it's just it's something you can put like at the top of your list. Let's say of goals accomplished. We opened up for a lot of big bands. That's like a huge marker.